Welcome to the Kohatsu Cave of Games. I've changed locations. I've tried to keep the noise down and let the kiddos play while I'm recording. So we'll see how that works out. Today, I'm going to be talking about Agricola, All Creatures Big and Small. It's a two-player version of the original Agricola. It is by the same designer, U. Rosenberg. Z-Man published this, and they published another one of Rosenberg's games, Lahar, in a two-player fashion as well. This game is very similar to Agricola, but it's boiled out a lot of the concepts to keep the game simple and quick for only two players. So you'll retain the worker placement aspect to where there's a central game board, and you'll take turns one at a time taking one action that gives you immediate goods to use for whatever you need to do. The main driving force for victory points in the game is to raise 4 different types of animals. And you'll get penalized for every animal type you don't raise. So you do have to, by the end of the game, get all 4 animal types and have them start breeding, so you'll get baby pigs and baby sheep and stuff across the 8 rounds to grow this big, massive barnyard of happy animals, better than your wife or daughter or whoever you're playing against. I've played against both my wife and my daughter. My daughter's 8. And she picks up on it really well. She beats me a lot. She really likes the game, and so does my wife. The base game by itself is quite simplistic once you learn all the mechanics. But there's kind of a mini expansion that throws a bunch more buildings in, and instead of acquiring animals, you can acquire buildings that give you special powers. And once you get that kind of mini expansion, it really opens up. And that's the level of content that I would like out of the game. So I'll just stop talking about it. I'll show you the game setup. I'll step through a sample turn. And I'll give you some tips and pointers. And I don't know, see if you like it. Let's go. Alright, here we are at the table. This is everything that comes in the game. So there's a lot of neat little pieces that you get for your money. Before I get into how you set up the board and what you do for your first turn, let me explain how animals can be raised on your farm. So I'll kind of zoom the camera in so you can see. Basically, this is your little starter farm. You'll have a cottage, and I'll bring it in so you can see it better. But each starter farm has this one little space down here. This is a building that has 4 fences around it, so it kind of counts as having a fenced area. This number down here lets you know how many animals can be stored in this space total, and that number is the number of victory points this building's worth at the end of the game. So, in this building, you can store 1 animal, like that, and that's its maximum storage. You can pick up this watering trough, and it doubles the capacity of any space. So a water trough inside your cottage allows for another animal because it doubled the capacity of 1 to 2. You cannot have more than 1 species in 1 contained area. So sheep can't live with horses no matter how much they try. That's just the way of life. If you have a watering trough in the middle of an open space, it can hold 1 animal. An animal by itself cannot live in an open space. It has to have at least a watering trough to contain it. Once you get fencing involved, the game changes dramatically. So you can build something like that, and that is considered its 4th wall. A fenced-in area can contain 2 animals, like that. And if you have a watering trough in it, then that capacity is 4. You cannot change fencing once they've been placed on the board, so you have to future plan for this, but you can build more than 1 lot of land for 1 fenced-in area. So now here I've corralled 2 spaces for the same area. That counts as 2. That counts as 2. So this entire fenced-in area can hold 4 animals. If I have a watering trough, you can have 1 watering trough per space, So one watering trough can go here, and that doubles the capacity to 8, from 4 to 8, because it doubles the entire fenced-in area. And if you take another watering trough and add it here, then this can hold 16 animals all together. So doubling your pasture capacity at the beginning of the game can be very crucial. However, the way that the game score points, as I mentioned, is different animals. You can't just have 16 sheep and no horse, because you'll lose points. So what you can do is construct another building here, and that contains your 4 walls. So you can kind of start building lots of little pastures. So now I've got 3 pastures, plus this one can store animals as well. So I can start storing pigs and horses and boar and sheep, all on the same tile. That is the basics of how animals can be stored on your land. At any point in the game, if you breed a new animal or if you acquire an animal and don't have any space for it, you can rearrange your animals however you see fit, just as long as they're all like segregated, I guess, segregated to their pens. You can't have mixed breeds to get your puzzle to work out. But if you just have one too many sheep and you can't do anything with it, then it's lost. It just returns to the wild and lives a happy life away from Kohatsu farms. But that's the basics of how your little farm setup works. So let's go back to the main board and talk about the game itself. When you start the game, the first of 4 phases in each turn is to reseed this board first. So wherever you see a marker, you'll just refill it. And you can't really see it too well, but there's little arrows besides some of them, but not others. If there's an arrow, that means that resource just adds into the pile. So it's just like how Agricola is with adding resources over time. So this would get 1 wood. This would get 3 wood. 1, 2. There's 8 fences here at the beginning of the game, and 1 fence gets added every turn. So that's kind of your game clock. Once you've drawn the 8th fence, then that's the last turn of the game. All of these don't fill up, and these down here is how you get animals. It's kind of shown with a little parentheses system. So like for this one, 1 reed gets added to the pile. On a later turn, if the reed is still in this square, then you add what's in parentheses. So without first, and then with, if it's still there. So for this first turn, a reed here, a little piggy here, a cow here, and a horse here. And on future turns, a sheep, and a pig would be added if those are still occupied. That's what you do for the first step of every turn. You reseed this little board here. The second thing that happens is you take your actions. Whoever has this start player marker gets to go first. They'll take one of their little worker tokens and place it somewhere. So say they want wood, they'll place it here, grab the wood, and their turn is over. Now the other player gets to go and do something else. So they'll go and take that. And it goes back and forth like that until you're out of your 3 markers. Everybody gets 3 markers to start. And you'll never get any more. It's always 3 actions per turn. Alright, so once everybody's selected their actions, the third thing to do is just to take all your worker discs and they go back home. Then the last thing is that your animals breed. If you have at least 2 of an animal type, you gain a 3rd. So that's the plateau is 2. You don't get awarded for every multiple of 2 that you have. So if you have 2 sheep, you'll get 3. If you have 18 sheep, you'll get 1 more for 19 total. If you have 2 sheep and 2 horse, then you'll get 1 additional sheep, 1 additional horse. All the animals you get have to immediately get put into your farm legally or they'll run away. That's your breeding step. You can do that at the same time. And then the round is over, and the next round begins with you reseeding the board. And then whoever has the first player marker goes first across the 8 rounds. So that's pretty much it. It is that simple. I'll go across the actions that you can take. This action lets you get whatever's in this pile here, plus the start player. This is whatever's this pile, that pile, that pile. This one is one of each resource. This one gives you one expansion to add on to your farm. And however many fences are here, you'll get all of them at the same time. You'll get whatever's in these 4 spaces, if whatever you want to take. They're all just kind of commodity resource spaces. This one allows you to gain one of those little troughs, the watering troughs, and immediately place it on your board. And you could pay 3 more wood for each additional trough you want. Up here, you get 2 fences from your personal stockpile, not this one here, but both players start with 9. So you could take 2 of your personal stockpile fences and place them on the board and pay 2 the ore or stone, I guess they're stone, for each additional fence that you want to place, and that's unlimited. You can do that as many times as you want, but the first 2 are free. Over here, as many times as you want, you spend 1 wood to place 1 fence on the board. So these are your 2 fencing actions. Going down here, these actions deal with the specialty buildings you can get. For 3 stone and 1 reed, you can pick up a stall. And a stall is 1 victory point at the end of the game. It gives you 4 fences to add to your board, and it gives you 3 animals to live inside the stall. All in all, the stalls rock. Later on, you can go here and spend 5 wood or 5 stone and upgrade an existing stall to its backside, the stables. It tells you that it has to go over an existing stall building, the little icon there. It's worth 4 VP instead of 1, and you could store 5 animals instead of 3. If you already have animals on here, and if you already have a watering trough on here, those will carry over when you upgrade the stables. So a watering trough on here will give you 10 animals in this one little space. That's a lot of sheep! So, the last action that you can take is these specialty buildings here. And in the base game, you get a total of 4 different specialty buildings. And I'll just go over them real quick. Each of them have different costs, so you just have to know what their costs are if you want them. You'll immediately gain 1 animal when you get a shelter. It's not one of every type, it's just you pick 1 and it gets added on. These are open stables. It has that same icon, meaning it has to go over a stall. It converts from a stall to these open stables, but it's cheaper. Not as many victory points, but you immediately get an animal. So it, give or take, depending on what you want to do. This one is, you get a half a victory point for every material that you have at the end of the game that you did not spend. So you can kind of go this route if you're not getting your animals up to par for victory point wise, then you could just start hoarding a lot of materials and get victory points that way. This covers your house with a new house that stores 2 animals instead of 1 and it's worth 5 victory points. So that's the game in a nutshell. So the only other thing to go over is how do you score points at the end of the game once all 8 turns have happened? Well, it just so happens that the game gives you its victory point values on the game box. So while you're playing, you can kind of reference it. It's on every side. But it lets you know that if you don't get more than 3 animals of a particular type, then it's minus 3 VP per type. And then that's how many animals you need just to score that many victory points as a bonus. So here I'll show you the scorecard that you get. It's only for 2 players, so each one of these sheets can be scored for 3 different games. you basically get 1 victory point for every animal type that you get. You add all of those up. Then you'll get your bonus victory points, which is what these are. So if you have 15 sheep, you get an additional 5 victory points. For each animal type, you'll get added there, and these where your negatives come in if you don't have any. That gets added up all together. Then down here, see if you can, you'll get 4 victory points for every single expansion that you've got all 3 squares of the expansion tile filled with something. Either it's a part of a fence, or it's got a watering trough on it, or a building. But it's 4 victory points if you get all 3 of them filled per expansion tile, so it can really add up. And this is the victory points that all your buildings give you at the end of the game. So you add all of those up, and that's it. Whoever has the most victory points wins. So that's it for All Creatures Big and Small. I really like the game a lot. I feel that it ends when it should. It doesn't overstay its welcome, and some people complain about Agricola to where the engine really starts getting going right when the game ends. I personally believe the game is good with the cards. You have to play with the occupation and the minor improvements. That way your mid-game hits its stride a lot sooner, and the game ends when it should. This game ends when it should, without any additional things needed. You're hitting like your 15, 16 sheep on the 8th turn, and then that's it. The game's over. There's no strategies that I can really give to new players. It's really dependent on what the other player does, because all the income streams, the revenue streams for different things is so limited. If you need cows this turn, and your opponent took the cows, then there's not much you can do. You got to go do something else. Try to get a building, or try to do fencing or something. So once you've played a couple times, it really becomes a chess match of sorts. So that's all I got to say about Agricola, All Creatures Big and Small. Fantastic game. Plays in under an hour. 2-player only. Small table print. It's a home run for me. I really like it, especially with the expansion with the extra buildings. Let me know what you think of the video, if I got anything wrong, if you want me to talk to you about anything specific with the game. I'm on BGG as Kohatsu. If you want to look through my collection and you want me to do a specific video for a game, because I've got a lot of big heavy hitters that I want to get to the table soon, like Venos and Trajan and whatnot. So yeah, stay tuned, do all the social stuff, and I'm pretty active on Twitter, so hit me up. Talk to you later. Bye.